It's time now for a look at the latest in local news. In the news, the 11-year-old juvenile who was charged criminally in the death of 8-year-old Noah Bush had his day in court this morning in front of juvenile judge Jerry Caldwell. The 11-year-old faced 4 charges and in court with his attorney pled guilty to all 4 charges. Guilty of simple battery, guilty of involuntary manslaughter, guilty of concealing the death of Noah Bush, and criminal trespassing. The judge sentenced him to the maximum under Georgia law, which is 2 years back in the juvenile justice system. And after the hearing was over, the attorneys of Noah Bush addressed the media outside the courtroom.
I'm Francis Johnson, Francis Johnsson. I'm joined by my partner, Maoli Davis, Mawuli Davis, Davis. We're here with Demetrius Bush and the Bush family. We just left the most heart-wrenching hearing that I think I've been a part of in my practice. And the Bush family have waited a long time for today, for what they knew in their hearts on May 15th to finally come out in court. And that happened on today. That this 11-year-old admitted under oath that he, in fact, led Noah Bush down to the clay pits, pushed him into the water, and ultimately held his head under that water until he drowned. That he then concealed that death and participated in the most horrific act that I think beyond just the manslaughter itself, pretending along with his stepfather of actually looking for Noah with this family, leading them on wild goose chase when he knew full well that Noah Bush was at the bottom of this clay pit, that he was in fact dead. On today, those admissions were made in court, and the judge sentenced this 11-year-old to the maximum under law, which was a 2-year confinement. But make no mistake about it, just because something is legal does not mean it is right.
Say that again.
Make no mistake about it, that just because something is legal does not make it just. And in this case, a 2-year confinement is not right or just. Demetrius Bush will deal with this for the rest of her life. Noah's siblings will deal with this for the rest of their life. Jesup will deal with this for a long time to come. And so this is a very sober day. But it is a day for telling the truth. And the truth is that the racial animus that was in the heart of the 11-year-old is what stirred this up in the first place. And we all have a responsibility to push back against that racial animus, that hatred that would lead 11-year-olds, 10-year-olds to want to fight and take the life of another person. That's what this case was about at its core. That the joy of Noah offended the 11-year-old. The peace, happiness of Noah offended this 11-year-old. And he wanted to do something about it. Make no mistake about it, there are people who feel that way. They flag flags in their yards, post signs, they get on Facebook. They do all of this in front of their children as if their children are not soaking this up. This is the consequence when you don't stand up against hate. It shows up in the life taken of Noah Bush.
Noah Bush's mother and father, family inside the courtroom, and Noah Bush's mother also addressed the media after the sentencing of the 11-year-old.
Today was probably one of the hardest days of my life. This isn't just this. My baby was 8 years old with a full life ahead of him. And 2 years is what the state of Georgia calls justice for an entire life that's lost. There is no peace, there is no comfort, there is no closure for me. I will live with this for the rest of my life.
So, under Georgia law, as you mentioned, 2 years is the maximum. What if he was charged with murder? What would he be facing?
Same consequence.
Just 2 years?
Yes,
And he pled guilty to all 4 charges?
he did.
You guys mentioned, that this case has invigorated you, but you as attorneys here are very emotional. What is it about this particular case and what happened in that courtroom that has y'all in tears today?
It's the senselessness of it. It's the senselessness of it. How much more innocent can a victim be? To be ate, to be playing, to be with people who he thought were friends. How much more innocent can a victim be?
And once again, those comments outside the courtroom after the hearing today in courtroom C. Outside the courtroom, also protesters yelling with a bullhorn. At one point, the judge sent officers outside to attempt to quiet the crowd as he came close to stopping the proceedings altogether, as they simply couldn't hear in the courtroom with all the yelling outside. We'll come back and talk to one of the organizers of the protests all the way from the state of Texas. That and more when we come back after this word from our sponsor, other commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Once again, we continue with the court hearing today down at the Wayne County Courtroom C, where the 11-year-old juvenile who was criminally charged in the death of 8-year-old Noah Bush pled guilty to all 4 charges in connection with the death. He was sentenced to the maximum of 2 years in confinement. The Bush attorneys and the Bush family want more. They definitely want the parents of the 10-year-old and 11-year-old juveniles charged, and we'll hear more from the attorneys later in our newscast this week. But outside the courtroom today, a group of protesters, one man from Texas with the bullhorn, who was confronted by law enforcement officers not once but twice, once for being in the middle of the road and blocking traffic. Police officer Alex Reddish almost wrote him a ticket, but instead asked the man to simply get out of the middle of the road. We talked with this protester from the state of Texas to find out how he got involved and what is he and the other protesters asking for. One of the protesters, first of all, tell us your name.
My name is Michael Big Texas Holiday.
And where are you from?
I'm from Houston, Texas.
So how'd you get involved in this?
I saw it and I could not stay in my bed and not come get a part of this.
Well, they keep yelling no justice. What is justice for a 10 and 11-year-old? What do y'all want?
Well, you got to understand that 2 years is nowhere near justice. The first child got 2 years unrestricted, so that means that child could possibly go to a group home or probation in the custody of his parents. So some real justice would be holding the parents accountable for what their child did because they knew what happened. Real justice would look like holding these children accountable because they knew what happened. At 10 and 11 years old, you know right from wrong. You knew holding down a child is wrong underwater.
So the state law says they're going to get 2 years, the 2 kids, but so y'all are asking for the parents of the kids to be charged, is that correct?
The parents of the kids to be charged and anyone else that had any involvement in this case.
Why so much anger towards the sheriff's department?
Because the sheriff initially said no foul play without even doing an investigation. So that lets us know that the sheriff did not care if Noah Bush family really received justice. That lets us know that the sheriff did not care about what was really going on because he was up for election. It's a problem.
Well, he was already elected, but anyway, shortly after they saw the video, the boys walking one way, walking back, they started the investigation, then charges were made. So I don't see what the...
You don't see how come the people are upset?
No, I don't see what the problem is. I mean, as far as the sheriff's department, to me, they called it the GBI. They did the investigation.
No. Let's be clear. The sheriff department only gave the GBI limited access. The GBI did not have full access to this case.
Where are you getting that information from?
I've been on this case for the last 56 days.
Well, we've been following from day one, talking to the sheriff.
That's a wonderful thing that you've been following since day one, as you should, since you're local. Right. So at the end of the day, when we come down here, we demand to speak to the sheriff, and the sheriff tucks his tail and run like a coward. It is no justice for Noah Bush.
Well, the family keeps asking for an apology. What do they want him to apologize for?
So if your son was murdered and the sheriff comes out and say no foul play, how would you feel? Would you want an apology? Would you want to look him in his eye and tell him you should have did your job from the beginning?
So you believe the charge should have been murder?
Absolutely.
So what can be done about that? I mean, the charge.
We're going to work very hard day in, day night to change the law. We're going to change the law to Noah's law. We're going to change this law one way or another, and we're not going to stop until it's changed.
Okay, I appreciate you talking with me. And once again, that our interview for the man from Texas organized these protests outside the courthouse today. Again, just to be clear, we asked the attorney if the charge was murder, what would be the maximum sentence? And again, the maximum sentence for the young kid would be 2 years in confinement. Again, we'll have more from the Bush family attorneys about this case. More protests are planned for the city of Jesup as they feel 2 years is not justice, that the maximum sentence under Georgia law is not justice. They're calling for a recall petition of Sheriff Chuck Mosley, and they're still demanding that the investigation continue into the conduct of the parents of the 10 and 11-year-old juveniles, as they are demanding that criminal charge be brought up against the parents. Again, WIFO-FM has covered this story from the beginning. We attended the funeral. We've had exclusive interviews with the Bush attorneys and family members, and we'll continue to follow the story as it develops. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes in the news, the Wayne County Commissioners have 2 meetings today, one at 4 o'clock, a work session, and then the regular meeting at 6 o'clock. We'll have a full report on Friday's newscast, and the Wayne County Board of Education has set a meeting for tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for an executive session to discuss personnel. School system and former school superintendent Dr. Sean Kelly have agreed to part ways, and the board voted 5-0 a week ago to enter into a buyout agreement in which Dr. Kelly will receive $166,997.25 in 12 equal installments beginning next month, based on his yearly salary of $149,500 and 25 days of unused vacation days, which comes to $17,497.25. The board meets tomorrow at 8 a.m. to make decisions on how to proceed with the departure of Dr. Kelly. WIFO-FM will be at the meeting tomorrow morning and have full details on our afternoon newscast on Friday. That's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan saying have a great day.